Hello, this is Solving Systems of Equations, Systems of Inequalities, Example 4. In this example, we need to write a set of inequalities that corresponds to this graph. And looking at this graph, there's two boundaries, this line and this line. And this is the shaded area up at the top. And we'll have to figure out the two inequalities. There's two inequalities because there's two boundaries. We'll start with figuring out the equations for the two boundary lines, and then we'll continue to figure out the inequalities. So I'll start with this line right here. It looks the simplest to me. You may just look at that line and say, oh, well, that line is y equals 3. However, it might not be so obvious to you. If it's not that obvious, you have to look at it and think about it. Y is 3 everywhere on this line, and x can be anything. That's why x is not part of the equation. X could be 1, 2, 3, 4, anything on that line. Another way to look at it is go about it as you would any line. Figure out the slope. Well, the slope is the rise over the run, and the rise is always 0. That means the numerator of the slope fraction is always 0. And if the numerator is 0, that means m is equal to 0. Now let's look at the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 3. Right there. So that means b is equal to 3. And if I use y equals mx plus b, that would mean y equals 0 times x plus 3. And 0 times x is just 0, and 0 plus 3 is just plus 3. So in that way you can figure out that the equation of that line is y equals 3. Now let's take a look at the equation of the other line. And what's the slope of this line? It goes up 1 and to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1. So the slope for this line is m equals 1. And now let's figure out b. Well, b is right there. It's 2. It crosses the y-axis. The y-intercept is 2. b equals 2. So for this one, we end up with y equals 1 times x plus 2, or y equals x plus 2. So we have the equations of the boundary lines. Now we have to figure out what inequality symbol is going to go in there. The inequality symbols, of course, are less than or equal to, greater than, or greater than or equal to. We have to figure out which one of those goes in there. And that's going to be based on the shaded region. And I think I'll do it just by looking at this point. This point 0, 0. 0, 0 is not part of the shaded region, so if I'm going to make this into an inequality, then when I put in 0 for y, I have to put in the inequality symbol that makes this false. So if I put in less than, 0 is less than 3, that's true. So I have to put in this one. 0 is greater than 3. That's false. That means this part of the graph will not be shaded, and I'm well on my way. Now, also, this is a solid line, so it's greater than or equal to. So the first inequality is y is greater than or equal to 3. Now let's do the same thing for this one. For this one, I'm going to use the same point, 0, 0, and it's got to be false. But let's get this in here. I'm going to have 0 for y, 0 for x, and then plus 2. So I'll have 0 on this side, 2 on this side, and I'll put in the inequality symbol that makes this false. So 0 and 2, if I put in 0 is greater than 2, that makes it false. And I'm not going to put in the or equal sign because this is a broken line, a dotted line. And so I have to put this in instead of the equal sign, so I end up with y is greater than x plus 2. So these are the two inequalities that make up the system of inequalities from that graph.